It was an ordinary night in Mayfair, in the quiet city of Green Bay, Wisconsin. For Nicole Vanderheyden, a devoted mother and a woman full of life, it was a chance to breathe outside the routine. She wanted just a few hours of fun, a few hours of freedom. But that night, which began with laughter and music, would end in absolute silence, marked by blood, fear, and mystery. Nicole was not a faceless stranger. She was a teacher, a daughter, a friend, a partner, a 31-year-old woman, full of energy, dreams, and responsibilities. She spent her days balancing the care of her children with the challenges of her career. For those who knew her, Nicole was the kind of person who lit up every room, with a contagious energy and a smile that could break down walls. And it is exactly this contrast that makes her story so devastating. How could someone who had so much to offer the world become, in just a few hours, the victim of such a brutal crime? Today, we will turn back time and retrace every step of that night. We will dive into the details, the hidden secrets, and the truths that took so long to come to light. Prepare yourself to follow the path of Nicole Vanderheyden, from joy to horror, from life to death. And before we begin this investigation, I invite you, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and share this video. Because telling Nicole's story is more than revisiting a crime. It's remembering that behind every headline, there is always a life that was cut short. May 20th, 2016. A seemingly ordinary Friday in Green Bay, Wisconsin. For many, it was just the start of another weekend. For Nicole Vanderheyden, 31 years old, mother of three, a woman balancing work, motherhood, and the weight of daily life, it was a chance to breathe, a night to escape routine, to let go of the pressure, and simply have fun. Nicole had arranged to meet friends at a local bar, the Stadium View, a lively spot known for music, laughter, and glasses that were never empty. From the moment she arrived, Nicole seemed determined to enjoy every second. Witnesses recall her smiling, dancing, laughing loudly. To anyone watching, she looked full of life, radiating energy. No one could have guessed that this would be her last night alive. And yet, like in so many tragedies, the warning signs were there, subtle, quiet, almost invisible. Between laughter and loud music, there were flashes of tension, small arguments, tense looks. Nothing that drew too much attention. Nothing that seemed serious enough to end a night. Nicole tried to hold on to the good mood, to brush off the shadows creeping in. But discomfort was beginning to surface. Close to midnight, something shifted. Nicole left the bar. What happened in the minutes that followed remains clouded by contradictions and silence. What is certain is that she never returned home. She never answered her phone. She never replied to messages. While her friends went on with their lives and the city fell asleep, Nicole was walking into the unknown. The night deepened and danger closed in. Around 4 a.m., a passerby stumbled upon a sight that would haunt him forever. Alongside a rural road in Bellevue, surrounded by open fields and near total darkness, lay the body of a woman, brutally beaten, discarded on the cold ground, abandoned as if she were nothing. It was Nicole Vanderheyden. The scene spoke for itself. The injuries were clear, undeniable. This was no accident, no random misfortune. Nicole had been the victim of a merciless attack. News of the discovery spread quickly, shocking her family, friends, and the entire community. How could a young mother, a vibrant woman, end up this way, left lifeless on the side of a road? Green Bay, a city known for its quiet safety, awoke to a crime that was brutal, senseless, and deeply unsettling. The timeline between the bar and the roadside was just a few short hours. Hours filled with questions that no one could yet answer. Who was with Nicole? Who saw her alive for the last time? What really happened in that gap between laughter and death? At that moment, the only certainty was loss. A life had been stolen and a community shaken. The investigation was just beginning, one that would unravel hidden secrets, expose carefully woven lies, and reveal a truth far darker than anyone could imagine. Shortly after 4 a.m, a man was driving along a rural road in Bellevue, an area on the outskirts of Green Bay. The road was narrow, surrounded by open fields, with almost no lighting. In the darkness of the night, anything out of place stood out, and that's exactly what happened. On the side of the road, hidden in the tall grass. Something broke the monotony of the night. As the driver approached, he realized it wasn't just an object. It was a body, a woman, lying face down, clothes disheveled, with visible marks of violence. The shock was immediate. He called the authorities, and within minutes the one silent road turned into a crime scene. Police cars, yellow tape, flashlights cutting through the dark. The officers knew at first glance this was no accident. The brutality was undeniable. Soon came confirmation. It was Nicole Vanderheyden. The news spread like wildfire. A 31-year-old mother, seen just hours earlier at a local bar, was now dead, abandoned on a deserted roadside. The scene raised disturbing questions. The body showed signs of severe beating, evidence of an intense, violent attack. But in those first moments, there were no answers, no explanation of how she ended up there, who had been with her, or at what point during the night the tragedy had occurred. As investigators photographed every angle and collected samples, the sense of urgency grew heavier. Green Bay was known for its calm, a city where violent crimes were rare and murders of this magnitude were almost unheard of. The weight of what had happened struck the community like a chilling wave. Nicole's family was notified, and despair followed. For her parents, and especially for her young children, it was the beginning of an unbearable pain. The smile that had once lit up family gatherings had now become the face of tragedy. In the local press, the first headlines appeared only hours later. Woman found dead on rural road in Bellevue. The details were scarce, but it was enough to spark fear and curiosity. Who could have done this? And why? Inside the police department, the pressure was immense. This case couldn't be just another statistic. They had to act quickly, track down evidence, identify suspects. Every passing minute without answers increased the risk of the killer vanishing. And so, as the sun rose over Green Bay, illuminating the crime scene in the light of day, a new chapter began. The hunt for whoever was responsible. An investigation that would soon reveal not only the cruelty of the killer, but also hidden secrets from Nicole's life and from the people around her. Nicole's body had been found. The shock was irreversible. Now it was up to the police to solve the puzzle. Who was with her that night? Who had the opportunity and the motive to turn her into the victim of such a brutal crime? The investigators' first step was to reconstruct the timeline. Nicole had gone out to the Stadium View, a popular bar in the area. There, she drank, danced, talked. But after leaving the bar, her final hours became a black hole. That window of time between the bar and the rural road held the answers. Attention quickly turned to the victim's personal life. Nicole was in a relationship with Doug Detry, with whom she had a newborn baby, just 7 weeks old. Their relationship was far from perfect. Witnesses confirmed recent arguments and ongoing tension. For police, it was impossible to ignore the obvious. Statistically, intimate partners are often the first suspect in cases like this. Doug was brought in for questioning. Nervous and confused, he admitted that he and Nicole had argued that night. He claimed she left the bar upset while he went home. According to him, he fell asleep and only learned about the murder the next morning. But investigators weren't convinced. The timeline was far too vague, and his calm reaction to the tragedy only fueled suspicion. Meanwhile, another name surfaced: George Stephen Birch, a man with a criminal history, recently arrived in the area, known for violent behavior and shady associations. He wasn't close to Nicole, but fate would cross their paths that night in a deadly way. Forensics worked tirelessly. DNA samples, cell phone data, location records. Every detail mattered. Soon, pieces began to fit together. Nicole's body showed clear signs of a struggle, evidence that she had fought back against her attacker. These details could point not only to who had killed her, but also to how he had managed to approach her. The investigation became a battle of pressure and contradictions. On one side, Nicole's partner, the natural suspect, surrounded by doubts about his relationship with the victim. On the other, a stranger with a violent past, whose presence at the crime scene was beginning to emerge through technical evidence. The police faced a dilemma. Should they focus on the intimate partner, the statistical favorite in crimes of this nature, or open the door to the possibility that an external predator had crossed Nicole's path by chance. While the community demanded answers, investigators were piecing together a dark puzzle. A puzzle where a single wrong move could mean delayed justice, or worse, a killer walking free. At that moment, the only certainty was that Nicole had been brutally murdered. The challenge now was to uncover whether the crime had been born inside her own home, or whether the darkness of the night had placed an unexpected enemy in her path. The investigation into the murder of Nicole Vanderheyden could not rely on assumptions alone. It needed concrete evidence. And that is exactly what the forensic team began to uncover. Nicole's body revealed the first answers. The marks of assault showed that she had fought for her life. Beneath her fingernails, biological traces were found. Clear sign that she had struggled and left her attacker's DNA behind. The samples were collected and sent for testing. But the body wasn't the only source of evidence. Nicole's cell phone became a crucial piece of the puzzle. Its tracking data revealed her final movements, showing the time she left the bar and the last locations where her device pinged. Technology began to fill the gaps left by the silence of the night. At the same time, investigators analyzed the phone of Doug Detry, Nicole's partner. The text messages confirmed the couple's argument that night. Call logs showed unanswered calls, and the pattern raised questions. Had he been the one to meet Nicole in her final moments? But then, an unexpected detail emerged. Location data from another cell phone belonging to George Stephen Birch. His phone, linked to Google, stored precise movement records. And on that night, his data placed him exactly at the location where Nicole's body was discovered. DNA testing confirmed what technology suggested. The biological material collected from Nicole's body did not match Doug. It belonged to Birch. The scientific evidence dismantled the initial theory of an intimate partner killing and pointed directly to a man with violent past, already known to law enforcement. The puzzle was coming together. What seemed at first like a domestic dispute turned into something far darker. A fatal encounter between Nicole and a stranger driven by violence. For investigators, there was no longer room for doubt. The case was shifting from speculation to the solid ground of science. DNA, digital tracking, and physical evidence now spoke louder than any contradictory version of events. And as detectives pieced together this grim scenario, one chilling truth became undeniable. Nicole had crossed paths with a predator, and this predator had a name, a face, and a trail of evidence left everywhere he went. With the technical evidence in hand, investigators finally had a solid path forward. The DNA found on Nicole's body and the geolocation data left no doubt. George Stephen Birch was at the crime scene. Police moved quickly. Birch was brought in for questioning, but from the start he was cold, evasive, calculated. He denied any direct involvement, yet his story shifted every time new evidence was presented. For investigators, it was clear. He was stalling, but science had already spoken. The prosecution built its case on 3 pillars: the DNA under Nicole's fingernails, Birch's digital location history, and his lack of convincing alibi. Together, these elements formed an airtight case. In court, the trial became a tense spectacle. On one side, Birch's defense clung to alternative theories, even trying to cast suspicion back on Doug, Nicole's partner. On the other, the prosecution dismantled every argument with scientific proof, laying out the timeline for the jury like a map with no escape. Witnesses took the stand. Forensic experts explained how Nicole's injuries matched a desperate struggle for her life. Technology specialists presented digital records placing Birch at the crime scene with minute-by-minute precision. With every report, every image, the picture of Birch as a predator grew clearer. For Nicole's family, each day in court was another wound. Listening to the brutal details, seeing crime scene photos, reliving the night their daughter's life was stolen. It was agony, but it was also the hope that justice might finally prevail. When the time came for the verdict, silence filled the courtroom. After hours of deliberation, the jury returned with a decision many had anticipated. George Stephen Birch, guilty of the murder of Nicole Vanderheyden. The sentence was severe, life in prison, with no possibility of parole. A legally satisfying conclusion, but one incapable of filling the void left by Nicole's absence. For Green Bay, there was a measure of relief in seeing the killer locked away. Yet alongside that relief came the haunting reminder: how could an ordinary night end in such merciless tragedy? Justice had spoken, but for Nicole's children, her parents, her friends, the scar would remain forever. The trial was over. The verdict had been delivered. George Stephen Birch would spend the rest of his life behind bars. But outside the walls of courtroom, the scars of Nicole Vanderheyden case remained wide open. In Green Bay, a city used to a quiet, steady routine, the murder caused a collective shock. Residents began to look at the night with greater suspicion. Parents asked themselves, how can we protect our daughters in a world where even a simple night out can end in tragedy? The media seized on every detail of the case. Newspapers, radio shows, and TV channels covered the horror, but also dug into the deeper issues it revealed: violence against women, the risks in nightlife environments, and the urgent need for stronger safety measures. On social media, outrage echoed in every comment. Many expressed solidarity with Nicole's family, while others demanded harsher laws for repeat offenders like Birch. Her name became a symbol of something larger: the struggle of women who leave their homes every day without the certainty they'll return safely. For Nicole's family, the public attention was a double-edged sword. There was comfort in seeing the community come together in her memory, but also pain in reliving the tragedy through every headline, every broadcast. The case also left its mark on law enforcement and the justice system. It demonstrated the vital role of forensic technology, from DNA evidence to digital records, as indispensable tools in pursuit of justice. Without them, this investigation might have ended in silence and impunity. But the strongest legacy was emotional. Vigils were held, tributes were paid, and Nicole's image as a mother and a woman came to embody a painful yet necessary message: that lives can be destroyed in a matter of minutes, and that violence often hides in the most ordinary places. In the end, the conviction brought a legal resolution, but not healing. For Nicole's children, the impact will last a lifetime. For her parents, the longing will never fade. And for society, there remains a bitter reminder that monsters aren't always hidden in the dark. Sometimes they walk among us until it's too late. The case of Nicole Vanderheyden was not just a solved crime. It was a painful reminder of how life can be cut short in a brutal and unexpected way. A woman who left home seeking just a few hours of fun and never came back. Her story forces us to confront unsettling questions. How far can violence hide within our daily lives? How is it possible that, in the 21st century, so many women are still victims of male brutality? And perhaps the most disturbing question: how many predators still walk among us, unnoticed? Nicole's death also shows us the power of science. It was DNA, digital tracking, and technology that shattered the lies and revealed the truth. Without this evidence, justice might never have been served. But while the verdict locked a murderer behind bars, nothing can bring back the loving mother, the devoted daughter, the cherished friend. Every time we revisit this story, we are reminded of how fragile life truly is, and that evil doesn't always lurk in distant shadows. Sometimes it appears in the most ordinary places: on a street corner, in a bar, along a forgotten road. And now I want to hear from you. What does this case make you think about? Do you believe justice was truly served? As a society, are we prepared to prevent stories like Nicole's from happening again? Nicole Vanderheyden is not just a name in a court file. She is a painful reminder that safety is never absolute, and that monsters don't wear masks, they hide in plain sight. And you? What would you do if the victim were someone close to you, someone from your family? How much do we trust in our routines without realizing that danger may be only a few steps away? The story of Nicole Vanderheyden is more than a criminal case. It is a cruel reminder that life can change in a matter of minutes, and that danger doesn't always hide where we expect it. Now, I want to hear your voice. Do you believe justice was truly served? What struck you most about this case? And how prepared do you think society really is to confront the violence that lurks in shadows, and often in broad daylight? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective is part of this conversation, and it can help keep Nicole's memory alive. If this video moved you, subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, and share this story. Because it is through remembrance that we prevent other lives from being erased in the same way. And never forget, behind every headline, there is a person, a family, a life cut short. And sometimes the monster isn't far away. It's standing right beside us.